Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for bearing with us, but we're ready now for the second PC semifinal of the day. If you just are joining us, you missed a great one between Energy and Dignitas, but I've got good news for you too. This one should be equally as good. Obey versus Rival and Tolly. This is a rematch of one of the semifinals from the spring finals earlier on this year.
That's correct. Obey Alliance, they actually won that last land, looking to win 2 in a row here in DreamHack Valencia. That last set, Dignitas going the distance in 2 very long games, being able to 3-0 the 2-time defending world champions.
What an unbelievable set that was, and I'm going to be honest with you, I think this set could be just as good. These two teams are so evenly matched. Obey has been on a roll, though, as you mentioned, since their last land victory. All of these guys are just playing at such a high level.
And with their new addition, Variety, replacing Variety is maniaKK in that solo lane, and he's been doing wonders for this squad out of Obey Alliance.
He really has. That solo lane powerhouse, Portuguese powerhouse as he's so often called. It just has that bully mentality to him, that old school solo laner feel has just been there for so long. He was in the SPL for so long, took a short break, came back like he never left at all.
Not much has changed, honestly, since he left Fnatic, taking a break during the middle of Season 3. He's been making so many moves and so many actions here, playing his staple Bellona for a majority of the games, and he's been creating havoc in the backline.
This was yesterday against Luminosity, and he was dominant in this set. No one can question that. All of Obey was dominant, but maniaKK in particular had an excellent set. This set, though, he's got to go up against another top solo laner in Europe, Deathwalker.
Deathwalker out of Team Rival is also a big threat in the European side. Gebwalker making his own picture. You know, he did bring out the Geb one time.
Who gives these guys pen and paper? They do this all the time. Who keeps giving them pen and paper to do these things?
It's got to be Alpha Jackal.
Probably is, but this guy will play just about anything in that solo lane, and he'll play it well, and he'll also bring some sort of odd build along with it, and it'll end up working out. He's one of those guys who always is on top of his theory craft.
There's a lot of creativity in the solo lane for Team Rival, whether it's the builds or the gods themselves. Playing the Sobek in game number 2 against Space Station yesterday, it was such an epic, fast-paced first game out of them with a 20-minute surrender against Space Station, but then Team Rival just decided to slow things down, and they won that game as well in 40 minutes.
I mean, this is what I'm talking about. Deathwalker, during the spring split, everyone's playing Guardians of the solo lane. He brings out Bellona and shows that pressure is king. Then in this lane, where everyone is still playing pressure in that solo lane, the Osiris, the Bellona, he pulls out Sobek, the Guardian in the solo lane, and then had success with that.
That's why he's my favorite. You know, it's been a long time since we saw any Guardian, let alone Sobek in that solo lane, but Deathwalker and the rest of his squad makes it work. They play around their solo laner quite often because the jungler, iceicebaby, really likes to lean on that solo lane, trying to maybe look for some invades, and that's exactly what he did yesterday, shutting down Wlfy.
Shut down right there as he tried to hold up another sign, but we couldn't quite see it. Obey versus Rival winner moves on to play Dignitas tomorrow, and we're getting right into it, folks. Picks and bans for game number 1, Obey Alliance in that first pick position.
I wouldn't be surprised if they target some of these gods that Deathwalker will really like to play. I'm expecting maybe Obey Alliance to leave both Bellona and Osiris open, expecting Rival to ban one, if not both of those, and then have maniaKK control in that solo lane.
Well, the first ban is targeted at Kalas with that Athena ban, and then the Morrigan taken away from PrettyPriMe. Kalas seems to be the focus, and this is pretty standard for teams going up against Obey. Kalas really does take a lot of bans towards his god pool.
Absolutely, but you know, he made a name for himself with the Bacchus. This could be the game to bring it back.
Could be. We've seen a lot of Sobek recently as well. Keep an eye on if that Egyptian Guardian is going to make another appearance here in this game, whether it be in the Guardian role or back in solo for Deathwalker. You called it though, Tolly. Osiris, one of the bans for Rival. Does Obey want to full commit to picking that Bellona first for maniaKK?
And I think that the reason why Rival is leaving open the Bellona is because Bellona is more manageable in the solo lane than in Osiris. You can cancel out the bludgeon. Sure, she'll still clear the wave with her AoE hammer, but at the same time, she's not going to be able to really poke you out if you cancel it every single time. Gebwalker, we could possibly see it. It would be quite a stretch in the semifinals in this best-of-5 set.
I mean, this is a team that's always confident in their picks, even if they're a little unconventional at times. I mean, totally, they picked Op Wash at a LAN in solo. So nothing is off the table for these guys.
I don't truly expect Geb to be played by Deathwalker in this set. It's the first game of this set. Both of these teams are going to be feeling each other out a little bit, trying to see what positional advantages that they can really gain, whether it's going to be that solo or dual lane.
Odin and Terra, the 2 picks here for Obey. So they've got their front line locked in. All 3 of these gods do a great job of creating that zone and absorbing the damage. Odin going to be in the jungle there for Captaintwig, who has really fallen in love with this warrior in the jungle.
He really likes this utility style. It's not something that's foreign to him or the rest of his team, whether he's playing the Naja, setting up the plays, doing the heavy burst damage, or if he's just caging and bringing everybody in. And to pick it this early in the draft is rather surprising against Rival. It seems that they don't want to allow them certain picks, specifically the Raw and Wlfy potentially.
Well, hi-rez, the pick there for Vote. So you got your mid lane and your Hunter locked in for Rival. That's going to be Soul for Wlfy in the mid, hi-rez for Vote in the dual lane. 2 gods that can get out of Odin cage. hi-rez a little bit more instantaneous with the dive bomb leap. Soul needs a little bit in order to get the disapparate going. Once she gets into that corporeal form, though, she will be able to escape the Odin ring. Thoth banned away from PrettyPriMe by Rival. Whereas Obey, they are looking at that man on your screen right now, iceicebaby, taking Camazotz away from him.
It's going to be interesting to see if they ban away another god against PrettyPriMe. With this Thoth taken away, the next ideal candidate would be the Vulcan. You know, he has a skin after that god.
He sure does, and has had a lot of success with it. We saw Vulcan earlier on today in game 1 of that energy. Dignitas said it was so long ago that you may not remember that it got played, but it did, and Yemen played it very, very well. Smart ban by Rival. They're on the same page as you in this pick and ban, totally.
And I wouldn't be surprised if another jungler from Obey gets taken away. Could see the Susanoo potentially. It hasn't had the greatest success, at least in this LAN, and it's kind of fallen out of contention because we've seen so many more Robin plays. And speaking of Robin, that could be banned, actually.
Still open here, so Obey has a couple options on if they want to continue to try and focus out the enemy jungler. Could also take away a potential warrior like an Erlang Shen. Deathwalker does like to play that, and iceicebaby has played it in the jungle before, so you could kind of hit both roles there with 1 warrior ban. But I think you're right. A warrior jungle here for Rival would really synergize with their comp nicely.
Especially considering that they have the Geb for Callus. It's an easy opportunity to dive the backline, whether you're iceicebaby or Deathwalker. You're going to be relying on those Geb shields to extend that engagement.
Still waiting on Obey's 2nd ban, taking a good long think about it. Coach hi-rez there in the background. These 2 teams have 2 of the more prominent coaches in Europe, but I don't think it's any coincidence that these are 2 teams that have had a lot of success as of late, particularly in their picks and bans phase. hi-rez for Obey, Alpha Jackal for Rival, and you were right on, Toli. Robin, the 2nd ban there for Obey.
The battle of the coaches here in picks and bans. Really interesting stylistic approach here from both of these teams, honestly. The fact that there was 3 frontliners from Obey right off the bat took me for a surprise. And Thor for Rival, giving the global presence for iceicebaby.
Another god that can get out of Odin cage, this time a little bit easier with the hammer or the ultimate, but iceicebaby has seen a lot of success on the Thor, has also had some games where he's gone a little cold on this god, and that's kind of iceicebaby's entire style. Very hot or cold, but when he's hot, he's one of the best junglers in the world.
Well, it's time to be hot considering Wlfy is playing that Soul in the mid lane. It's going to be easy to really set up a lot of these stellar bursts and try to get that mid control, especially with Captaintwig playing this Odin. If he wants to clear the wave, he might have to commit to that bird bomb jump. And if you're playing Thor, you're just going to allow that to happen, and then you're going to counter engage and just do so much burst damage.
Just under 30 seconds left for Obey as they're looking for their final 2 picks. The Zeus comes back once more for PrettyPriMe in the mid lane, and the Cernunnos gonna wrap up that draft. That's gonna be for Ataraxia in the dual lane. So Obey really seems to like this combination of Odin cage into Zeus ult, and who could blame him? That's been around for so long.
Going to be having to be very careful as iceicebaby of the timing that he uses that hammer. Doesn't want to get stuck in that Odin ring. However, only Geb can really get caught forever in that cage, so I wouldn't be surprised if Rival pick a god in the soul lane that can get out of this cage and then neglect the Phantom. It's not really necessary here, I feel like.
Call-outs would be the focus, I think, if that were the case, but Rival has a little bit of time, about 75 seconds to decide on their final pick. If that is Geb in support, they did throw up the Deathwalker sign and committed to the Geb pick very early on. I don't think it's a coincidence that Rival has held their support or solo pick until this last little phase here to try and show that we could play this in 2 different roles.
It leads a lot of warrior bans as well off the table, right? We saw the Camazotz ban, we saw the Raven ban as well, and Rival also having a very hard think about their last pick. You have to make sure you cover all your options, both offensively and defensively in this first game of the set.
Xing Chen, another Guardian
Wow.
in that solo lane. And who knows where's going where? I mean, we've seen Kalas play the Xing Chen support before.
I gotta say, this Xing Chen should be going in the solo lane. It's been that Season 2 staple matchup, whether it's Sobek or Xing Chen against a Bellona. We've seen it time in and time out. And I wouldn't be surprised here if they leave Deathwalker alone playing whatever Guardian it is, whether it's the Geb or the Xing Chen, because once he transitions into these team fights, he'll bring more of a punch than the Bellona on maniaK will.
Obey versus Rival, the PC semifinal, the European semifinal number 2, because all 4 of our semifinal teams are hailing from Europe, but these 2 teams facing off to try and decide who's going to go up against Dignitas in the finals tomorrow. Totally, we've seen the draft. Who do you like more?
Honestly, I like the Terra support for Obey Alliance, but everything else just does not seem the most optimal picks here. Yes, Odin and Zeus synergize so well together, but the fact that Rival can all get out of that cage with the exception of Geb, I'm not really too worried about their chances whenever between Captaintwig showing up to these team fights.
And when we saw Zeus be played yesterday, it was by PrettyPriMe, but EmilZy was playing that Ganesh, and Ganesh has such solid peel with that silence. He's able to have that stun knock-up combination, drop the Dharmic pillars, very difficult to get around that elephant. Terra, while having solid peel out of that Guardian role, oftentimes is kind of relegated to that initiation sort of role instead, so we'll have to wait and see how well EmilZy can protect his mid laner. It is the Deathwalker in the solo lane.
It actually happened. Kalas is playing the Xing Chen, which means it's going to be actually scarier in these early portions, especially with the Blink Relic here, really trying to set up a lot of CC here between the knock-up, the root, and then that spin to win.
Not only that, but it's Wlfy on the Hu-Yi and Vote piloting the Soul in the dual lane. Usually, as of late in Season 4, it's been a lot of Soul mid, Soul mid, Soul mid. Very few hunters are still playing this magical goddess, but Vote and Wlfy decide to go against the norm and go with their own style.
A lot of mind games here coming out of Rival. Instant frenzy pop by Captaintwig here, trying to out-clear that mid lane pressure, but Wlfy is not really deterred here as PrettyPriMe took a lot of damage in return.
Both iceicebaby and PrettyPriMe took a lot of damage there, but at the end of the day, it's Rival who end up out-clearing even with that girdle pop by Obey.
Really surprising there because I guess it was the Berserker Barrage. Once you hit an enemy god, you're going to get minion aggro towards yourself, and if you're getting hit, then they're not hitting the wave anyway.
That's a good point. And then you use this to Bumba sustain already iceicebaby at full HP, so that's an excellent strategy there. As long as those minions don't end up killing you. Minions in Smite very, very strong during all stages of the game.
Very fortunate for Deathwalker here to not get invaded in this early game, whether he's playing the Geb or any Guardian. It's very difficult to deal with the Bellona, especially if you don't have that blue buff. And iceicebaby, it's taking a little while here to clear this solo lane, giving Obey a small window to get these Fire Giant Elementals.
No surprise that Obey is going to be the ones getting these Fire Giant Elementals. Don't be surprised if you see them getting those quite often in the first 10 minutes of the game, just because, as you mentioned, that Guardian in the solo lane has a lot harder time clearing quickly compared to that of the Warriors.
iceicebaby taking a little bit of poke for his trouble while the rest of Obey's clearing out that solo lane. Haven't seen the dual lane quite often in this game. Looks like Obey really wants to try to steal away those back left Harpies.
Wlfy is there, but gonna miss that ricochet, and all 3 go the way of Obey Alliance. Ataraxia and EmilZy won't have an easy path back to that dual lane, but because of how quickly they pushed that wave, it's not a big deal. They're not going to miss much.
It's like EmilZy and Ataraxia were paying a toll booth as they were crossing by. It's like, all right, I'll take some damage to get your back Harpies, no problem.
Especially whenever Ataraxia is still all full HP. He's got some pots ticking there and has some good sustain built into that kit, as does EmilZy using that monolith. We've seen Obey put a big emphasis to controlling enemy back Harpies. In that set against Luminosity, it was Captaintwig consistently invading the enemy back Harpies. This time, it's the dual lane of Obey doing the same.
It adds up. If you have the early game pressure because of the god that you're playing between the level 2 through 4 area, why not extend that advantage to going beyond the buffs itself, taking that little bit of a risk, especially when you have control in terms of vision on the side of the map of solo side if you know where the jungler is.
All right, so Deathwalker playing Geb solo, totally. On paper, it makes sense against Bellona, right? Because you have Shockwave to knock up the Bellona and stop the bludgeon. But if Deathwalker's using his knock-up to stop Bellona's bludgeon, what's he clearing the wave with?
It's not going to be very easy for him, which is why we're seeing so many archers piled up from the previous wave. He's going to lose all the melee gold here. He will be able to clear out some of these archers, but I love what maniaKK is doing here. He's using this opportunity to get the Scourge off, get some sustain off of Deathwalker. Still, every time Deathwalker has to stand inside the tower to prevent these archers from losing gold, he's taking more damage constantly.
But look at the build that Deathwalker's gone for. Hasn't even picked up his first relic yet. Is just still waiting to see if he needs teleport, basically. And it started with a silver breastplate, too. As we mentioned, Deathwalker always on the cutting edge of these new builds. How do you feel about this one?
I like it because you get everything you need in the early game, right? You're looking at a starter item in terms of Mark of the Vanguard, which is pretty good against warriors. You're having the option to prevent a lot of minion damage as well. So with the physical protection, you're getting the MP5 from the silver breastplate. The fact that he got the blue buff allows him to stay in the lane to that level 5 point. Without his relic currently, this gives him an opportunity to maybe evaluate how early he'll be able to rotate and whether or not he'll need blink instead.
That's a good, I was about to ask you, what could he be going instead of teleport? We know that he likes that Swift Wing, as do many players now in this meta. Do you think blink is the option here to match that of Kalas?
It could very easily well be the case because you have two great guardians that can force purification beads, whether it's Kalas that goes in and forces it or Deathwalker. You're gonna have to beat the Cataclysm, you're gonna have to beat through Whirlwind, Steel, and Rage, and that's not a good thing for Obey Alliance if they have to deal with the blink, and look at that, he actually did back to base, get the Swift Wing and that blink.
As soon as he realized that he could get back to base at the right time to have that 1,100 gold between the 800 gold Swift Wing and the 300 gold for the Boots 1, that means that he's gonna be able to get back to lane quickly enough, especially with rollout, that increased movement speed whenever he leaves the base with the Swift Wing passive, and of course, that 5% movement speed that Swift Wing gives you at all times. Love what they've got going on, and now he's coming towards the mid lane as the dunk comes down on the PrettyPriMe. He drops the ult, but it doesn't matter. Kalas and Rival play first blood.
Deathwalker's even here trying to find a second kill, but now it's Captaintwig getting pulled into the safety of his own tier 1 tower. Great play out of Kalas, preventing the death of Wlfy.
Deathwalker still here. Vote makes the rotation, drops the ult as well. There comes the cage, and Kalas blinks forward, trying to disrupt. Wild Hunt is huge, and maniaKK puts Obey on the board. Kalas 1 HP. He's gonna fall to Ataraxia. iceicebaby answers back on the maniaKK, and he's gonna get a double kill with the hammer onto Ataraxia. Now still trying to box as Twig cleans up Vote. And all at the end of the day, it's a 3 for 2, but Rival, remember, found PrettyPriMe at the beginning of this engagement, all even, 3-3.
What an epic clash between these two European teams right off the bat. I thought this game was going to be really close. I think the whole series is going to be really close after that last team fight.
I mean, that was back and forth, no doubt about it. You called it right away, though. Deathwalker's rotation, he looked like he was just rotating for those mid-harpies, but with him there and having the blink initiation, no way PrettyPriMe expects a 4-man gank at the 5-minute mark.
And that's really unfortunate for Deathwalker to take a spill there now because he's not going to be able to farm efficiently. He took an early death, and now it's going to be a maniaKK sitting at level 8, 2 levels above his opposition. And when we were talking about this Odin selection here, how he's going to be able to lock in only Deathwalker playing this game. Maybe that's also why we see the switch of Kalas playing the Xing Chen, so when these engagements do happen, he'll just disengage with a jump.
Could wait just until level 12. Deathwalker just going to try to not see Captaintwig until level 12 until he can get that Phantom. Would certainly be an excellent choice. Looking down the board here, Tolly, and I see 3 Swift Wings so far, and don't be surprised if EmilZy picks up a 4th. Most supports are really liking that early Swift Wing right now. This item went from never bought to now bought nearly every single game in the SPL.
It's almost as efficient as a teleport back to your tier 1 tower, no matter what lane you play in. but haven't really seen it too often here in the mid lane. PrettyPriMe picking this up immediately after finishing off his Warlock Sash stacks, gives him the opportunity to consistently farm, trying to reach that 100 stack count just to get a lot of extra health and mana.
I love it. I love that PrettyPriMe has done this. He did it yesterday on the Thoth, whatever, you rushed the Book of Thoth. It's just such a good idea because you're giving up that mobility as a whole. That Thoth actually is on the left-hand side of the map. iceicebaby is looking for Ataraxia, but misses the wall after forcing out the bead. Still a win at the end of the day for Team Rival, getting purification beads for that Thor ultimate. But going back to PrettyPriMe and the Swift Wing, you're giving up movement speed and rotation ability by foregoing the boots early on, but you're gaining a lot of power, a lot of stacks early on with this Warlock Sash or Book of Thoth, whatever he goes for. But that Swift Wing mitigates that main weakness of waiting to build your boots.
And the whole idea between Swift Wing versus boots is the farming game. You're not really trying to go past that imaginary midline, but hold that thought. Rival starting the very early goal here.
Ataraxia's coming around the back, but not there in time. Rival gets the first objective. iceicebaby's a little pig, but he gets up and over the wall in time as Kalas picks up 2. Kalas could be in trouble here, though. Ataraxia throws out the root, can't quite find it. The detonate not enough, but the bludgeon will be. Obey, find a return kill after losing the Gold Fury.
Absolutely worth for Kalas to lose his life in that situation, saving his jungler and ensuring that his team would get the Gold Fury. And with that Gold Fury, Team Rival now extending their lead ever so slightly. You know, you don't get the most gold in the world for the Gold Fury, as every single minute you're getting an extra bounty on that objective.
That does mean the Deathwalker gets a little bit more global gold, though, and you mentioned it whenever he took that death, and maniaKK was able to farm, but Deathwalker was not. He was very far down on that net worth list, still down about 400 gold to maniaKK right now, but a little bit closer in terms of XP, a little bit closer in terms of gold, and this whole Rival composition is built to fight in the mid to late game.
With 2 Guardians, absolutely. Also 2 technical hunters, 1 physical, 1 magical that can serve as both a mage or a hunter, depending on the way you build the soul, is going to be very easy to start melting some of these towers and the objectives. And whenever you have that kind of composition between Hu Yi and Soul, for example, you want to have as much protection as possible. Geb brings that in the form of the knock-up Cataclysm to shield, and you got a Xing Chen that can create a lot of havoc in the backline as well.
On the other side, Obey Alliance's team composition is pretty well balanced throughout the entire game, I would say. Obviously, Odin is most effective in the early stages. Towards the late game, does lose a lot of that effectiveness in terms of damage, but that cage is always going to have an impact.
And it seems that Captaintwig is probably building into that Masamune, trying to get into the thick of things. Gonna force out the ultimate from iceicebaby, and he barely gets out. No charge stack on him.
Kalas looking for the ultimate, not gonna find the spin to win and toss Captaintwig. That was close for iceicebaby. If he would have hesitated just a moment and pulling the trigger on that ultimate, that would have been certain death after multiple stacks from the Zeus ultimate. But I like the call there from Obey. iceicebaby threw the hammer in order to clear the wave, and immediately Captaintwig, who was going to seal away back camps, it looks like, came and ganked the mid lane instead.
And we saw a little foreshadowing of that in the solo lane when Captaintwig was hiding between the jungle and the solo lane, when he was just waiting potentially for a hammer out of iceicebaby. We saw maniaKK push up a little bit, he got stunned, and as the stun happened, we saw Captaintwig showing his face in that solo lane, so iceicebaby didn't throw the hammer that time.
So when we talk about Odin, it's always been, yeah, Bird Bomb does lots of damage in the early game, and then all of a sudden stops doing lots of damage in the late game. But I think that with the recent changes to Odin, he's gotten significant scaling buffs consistently throughout this year. It's been on the 2, the 1, now the 3 does some more damage in the late game. Are we seeing Odin become more effective for longer, or is he still just an ult bot past 25 minutes?
As long as you don't get behind, Odin will always do a lot of damage in the base form, especially against these squishy targets of Vode and Wlfy. The Geb Shield is going to be very important to negate a lot of that Bird Bomb damage, but where you're really looking out of Odin is to be this hybrid mix of power and defenses, whether it's in the form of the Shifter Shield or the Masamune that he just completed.
Deathwalker trades the blink for the quick ultimate out of maniaKK. iceicebaby was lurking in the jungle there as well. Quick reaction from the Obey solo laner. iceicebaby looking for the flank, trying to find a decent wall to cut off the escape route of PrettyPriMe, but Obey is still going to be able to confirm those right side mid harpies.
I like the play in that soul lane. A little bit of a mind game there as Deathwalker didn't commit to the Cataclysm, and by forcing out the Eagles rally, this gives iceicebaby a small window to gank that solo lane.
Ice has a small window to escape as he already found a lot of damage his way as he and the rest of Team Rival found those mid harpies. PrettyPriMe trades out his beads, but then drops the ultimate right on top of Collis, who has no jump available. Ataraxia is going to get credit. iceicebaby just couldn't quite close the gap with that Anvil of Dawn. Captaintwig wasn't even scared if he had the option because of that Terra's Blessing ultimate out of EmilZy.
Unfortunately, Callus, he got the bees, but he had to invest his jump to get in position to do so. Great bait from PrettyPriMe, and the reasoning why he's also being targeted is because he still hasn't completed his boots. But don't forget that Swift Wing still provides you a little bit of extra mobility, and that's why he was able to kite for so long.
He's also got a lot of HP there already, totally 53 stacks on that Warlock Sash at the 12-minute mark. Usually the rule of thumb for Warlock Sash is if you can complete it around 12 minutes, you're in a good spot. Not only has PrettyPriMe completed it, but he's halfway done stacking at this time.
It's looking very good for PrettyPriMe here because iceicebaby hasn't really been targeting the mid lane for the most part. He got that one kill early on, but he never went for a second attempt, and that attempt in the last engagement, he was just out of range to connect that Anvil of Dawn. It would have been a nice opportunity for him to find some cleanup kills, but I'm really looking forward to iceicebaby trying to look for that prime target.
Can we take a look at what Deathwalker's leveling here in the solo lane? Because it looks to me like he's prioritizing that knock-up and the rollout. I mean, if you're in solo, you're expecting to do a little bit more damage, and you're going to get so many levels that just waiting to level that stone shield, probably not a bad idea.
It wouldn't be a bad idea, especially to negate some of the damage from maniaKK. Even though you might cancel out his bludgeon, the damage from just his shield bash, the Scourge, and a few in-hands after the fact is enough to be absorbed by that shield, stay in the lane as long as possible, and then sustain with that health chalice.
Twig shows his face on the right side of the map, but Deathwalker is able to roll away to safety just for the moment, and Twig is going to force out that blink. Quick decision there by Deathwalker. Don't know if that was necessary, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's not that big of a cooldown to lose.
Better safe than sorry, and it seems that Rival were more concerned about probably saving their blue buff. PrettyPriMe, though, was left alone in that mid lane. No bees for him. He was pulled in.
iceicebaby misses the hammer, and now Prime is juking for his life. Still alive until Deathwalker makes the rotation, but it was enough time to find the kill onto iceicebaby. Wlfy very low. maniaKK wants to continue the chases. EmilZy finds a stun onto Deathwalker. It ends up being a 1-for-1, but PrettyPriMe did a great job of staying alive as long as possible and making sure it was an even trade.
It's the health from that Warlock Sash and the Aegis that bought enough time for the rest of Obey Alliance to at least find a cleanup kill onto iceicebaby. Great tactical play originally from Team Rival, taking advantage of the fact that everyone from Obey was positioned to try to invade the blue buff from Deathwalker.
So we're almost 15 minutes in, Tully, and Obey has a very slight kill lead, but they're a little bit behind in gold, though let's be real. This game is even at this stage. About 1,500 experience in the lead for Obey. That's a very slight lead. Goal difference isn't there. No difference at all. Is this enough to propel Obey past these double Guardians as soon as they start to come online with their tank items?
Not at all. Against double Guardians, you want to have a much bigger lead than this. You want to be up at least 4,000 experience just to control the mid game at that point. If you're able to get the level 12 relics first, that's when you can really start winning them convincingly. But it seems to me that Obey, they want to go for a little bit more, poking out Callus.
They've got plenty of poke onto him after that Chain Lightning Detonate combination as Oracles get split right down the middle. We've had so much action in the mid lane that we haven't really checked in on this duo side, but Ataraxia's checked in the mid lane quite a bit. His rotations have been incredibly fruitful. 3, 1, and 3 has been a part of all 6 kills for the Obey Alliance, despite none of them really happening in his lane. It's a substantial lead in terms of the stat line, but Vote pretty close in terms of levels, down about half a level right now.
You can really tell that Ataraxia went through so many phases in his Smite career, going from this passive farmer to a more aggressive hunter to now just a rotation utility style hunter, and it's been working out for him at least in this first game, the epic best of 5 set to come.
iceicebaby gets spotted out for a moment on a ward, but I believe Obey has lost him all the way behind their tier 2 tower. This is going for a little roam around the jungle.
Where in the world is iceicebaby is what I'm asking myself currently. He's trying to position himself probably for a little bit of a cheeky gank onto PrettyPriMe. Wouldn't be a bad idea, but we saw what happened the last time that attempt happened from Rival. It took so long to kill that mid-mage that everyone from Obey was able to find a return kill, but at least poking out Ataraxia here. However, playing the Cernunnos, you're not really too worried about any sort of poke with, as long as you go into that spring season.
Oh, iceicebaby got shredded there, but just able to escape once more with the quick ultimate. But Obey's gonna take this opportunity to try and pull this Gold Fury already down to about 50%. Twig does have that cage, but it's leashed away as Kalas blinks in as the suns rain down from Wlfy. EmilZy still so far in that front line trying to get it going. Prime drops the ult, but immediately Wlfy is able to hop out. Such a close Gold Fury pull there, but Rival managed to reset it.
Perfect timing from Kalas. Avoided the in-hand from EmilZy that would have definitely put him in combat. maniaKK forced to use that Eagles rally defensively just to get out of danger. iceicebaby got poked out earlier on, but now he's back in the action.
Really close engagement there, and now Rival, they're the ones who are thinking about pulling this Gold Fury. Almost all the ults on Obey are down, except for Ataraxia and Captaintwig, who are both in the neighborhood. Gold Fury falls below 50%. iceicebaby's the one taking it up. Twig comes in, but it's already too late. Rival got the Gold Fury. Shield onto iceicebaby as Twig gets bursted by the hammer, and Rival get the objective and the team fight. They're able to escape towards their jungle as they get the first slight lead of this game.
Rival, they got the first Gold Fury and then they lost one, but this time they get the second Gold Fury and actually gain one kill. Great little boost of confidence probably to Team Rival here, but Obey Alliance trying to respond in kind. Nice blink from Deathwalker, but
did he get that?
It wasn't Deathwalker. I think it was actually the Stellar Burst coming out of Vote potentially.
Either way, Rival strip away that objective as well. There have been 3 that have been knocked down, and all glowing red for Rival. Now this means that all the members that are backing Wlfy coming back from base, he's able to join up this siege very quickly. This tier 1 tower sure to fall. Another 500 gold goes the way of Team Rival.
Just like that. This game was even. Not even 2 minutes ago here, Aggro, and already Rival controlling the pace of this game with all 3 of these objectives, if you include that tier 1 mid tower. That early 5-6 minute Gold Fury was not that significant considering it was only a 500 gold lead, but now you're looking at about almost a little over 3,000 here, and it's going to extend to 3,500 after this tier 1 solo.
That's no response from Obey at all. Ataraxia is on the left side of the map, and Rival's group is 5. There's the blink forward. Twig's the focus, and he gets grabbed and pulled back, and he's going to get bursted down by Rival. Deathwalker with the kill. Ataraxia still pushing the left. PrettyPriMe is pushing mid. They're going to get tier 1s, Toli, but Rival's going for the Phoenix here.
1,500 gold is superior to 1,000 between the tier 1s. Ataraxia was thinking about backing. He's going to continue the left-hand side, and Team Rival are going for a very early Phoenix without a Fire Giant.
They've got it. Tier 1 tower and mid went down to PrettyPriMe. Ataraxia still working on knocking down the tier 2. No teleport on Team Rival, remember. Deathwalker went for 2 different relics. And now Rival thinking about engaging. maniaKK gets walled off, and he's going to get bursted. Vote puts number 7 on the board for Rival as Ataraxia does finally clean up that tier 2 on left.
Set up an ambush here, says Team Rival, catching maniaKK without his ultimate. And that's the reason why I think Obey Alliance didn't want to try to defend that Phoenix. There was no ultimate from maniaKK. Captaintwig was already dead. And EmilZy, I believe, used his ultimate as well. And without those 3 utility styles, very difficult to defend a big siege from Rival.
Now, if there is a silver lining here from Obey, not only did they get a significant amount of gold, 2,500 between the 3 towers they knocked down on that split push. They also, the Phoenix that they lost is the closest to the Fire Giant. The problem is that by the time that Phoenix respawns, Gold Fury will have been up for a little bit, and maybe Rival is going to be feel more comfortable going for the Gold Fury, in which case that right side Phoenix is more of a hindrance than a help.
And it's also a right side Phoenix that went down pretty early in the game here, around this 19 minute mark, and that's not easy to clear these fire minions without a lot of these levels and items on the side of Obey Alliance, giving Rival more of a breathing window to get more objectives on their book.
Stun on the Twig, a little bit of poke onto the Obey Alliance jungler. And you're right, Zeus also, usually your mage is the one clearing out these fire waves. Zeus is not the best at clearing out fire waves. Has to kind of stand in the middle of it at times if they're not grouped correctly for that Aegis Assault. So it can be a little bit awkward for Obey's mid laner, though he does have quite a bit of HP now with that fully stacked Warlock Sash. He's got the Bancroft's talent as well, now just waiting on some penetration as Obey has started up the Fire Giant here. Frenzy's pop, they're completely committing to this. EmilZy comes in and drops the ultimate, as does Prime, and Obey's gonna get the Fire Giant. Only Kalas, Ice, and Deathwalker are in the neighborhood. Kalas picks up one, tosses maniaK, but no real damage follow-up after that. And now Obey's looking for the fight onto Deathwalker.
Deathwalker finding two with the Cataclysm. Eagles rally on top of iceicebaby. iceicebaby gonna go up in the sky. He's thinking about landing onto two. He's gonna dunk, land on both of them, but there's no follow. The rest of his team is just nowhere to be found.
Wlfy was split pushing that left T2, and Obey just snuck that away. Rival had some members in the area, but I believe that was EmilZy who was sitting in the mid lane like, nah, guys, we're not doing anything. Don't worry, we're farming back camps.
Well, sure, you can take both of these little advantages here from Obey and Rival, but I'll take Rival's advantage in the Phoenix as opposed to a Fire Giant at the 22-minute mark. Having to defend this right-hand side, even if Obey rather would want to siege the Soul Lane Tower, there's gonna be so much opposition with these Fire Minions that it's gonna delay the buff even further.
But the grouping from Obey is not on that right-hand side where the Phoenix is down. Instead, it's on the left by this Gold Fury. iceicebaby's been pulled over to the right because of Captaintwig's split push as he cleans up that low health T1. And Obey looks like they could get this Gold Fury for free. Wlfy thought about throwing out a stray Ricochet, but never even made up his mind. So Obey Alliance closes that gold gap a little bit more. Now down only 2,200 gold. Experience is even, and that Fire Giant buff still available for 2.5 minutes.
As far as I'm concerned, this game is pretty much even here. Obey Alliance making a small and steady comeback here. They had a slight deficit with gold and experience, but after that last Fire Giant attempt now, they're getting the objectives now this time. They got the last Fire Giant, they got the first gold, their first Gold Fury of the game, and heading into the 24-minute mark, they're making the necessary steps.
Gold Fury, or excuse me, Fire Giant, or Fire Minions, I should say, on the right-hand side. Still coming down the lane, but as we hit the 23:45 mark, that right side Phoenix does respawn, so don't be surprised to see Obey. Just make sure that those fire waves aren't going to knock down that unhealthy Phoenix, but with how far they pushed up that wave, shouldn't be too much of an issue, as now the Portal Demon seems to be the focus, at least for the moment.
We're going to see Kalas in the mid lane just clearing out the wave. Maybe could look for a Strangler, could look for some beats popped here, but EmilZy is just going to clear the wave as well. You don't want to leave a squishy against a Guardian that's going to force a beat.
Vote now in trouble, but the Cataclysm comes out from Deathwalker, and Vote drops an ult of his own. Cage was dropped there by Captaintwig, as Deathwalker actually does get the CC immunity off in time. Twig was looking to interrupt that rollout. A lot of ultimates dropped on each side, 3 by Obey, 2 by Rival, but all members of each team were able to back up, still fairly healthy.
And looking at the bead situation on the side of Obey Alliance, still PrettyPriMe and Ataraxia with their beats. They don't have to worry about Kalas' ult.
iceicebaby up in the sky, but the Portal Demon's already dead. It is glowing blue. Prime is the focus, but Kalas already got bursted by maniaK and the rest of Obey. No one was there to help out iceicebaby as he's still trying to get away. Wlfy gets wild hunted over the wall, and Deathwalker blinks in to throw out the body blocks.
Trying to absorb some of those in-hands. Nice shield onto Wlfy as well. Great zoning from Ataraxia, and that's so unfortunate for Team Rival, for Kalas, because dying before he got off the ultimate, he couldn't really force the purification beats to allow iceicebaby to dive successfully against PrettyPriMe.
Root is on the mark from EmilZy, but Ice still had his purification beat, so he's going to be able to survive. Obey Alliance have the Fire Giant for another 16 seconds, trying to make the best use of this ultimate. Twig cages in 2, Vote, and Deathwalker gets stunned out. Wlfy's doing his best, but the damage is good on the inside of that cage. The Phoenix was the focus, though, for the Obey Alliance, and they're able to get the right side Phoenix of their own. Now the retreat is on, but Kalas doesn't want to let him go.
EmilZy trying to survive, but it's Wlfy dying to Ataraxia, trying to survive with that Aegis a little bit longer, forcing the beats of PrettyPriMe. Ataraxia finally falling to Vote.
Vote drops the ultimate. Twig 1 HP. maniaK throws out the bludgeon, but the Aegis is good from iceicebaby. Not going to stop the chain lightning, though, as Prime does clean him up. Kalas finds the finishing touches onto Twig. EmilZy 1 HP. Prime in the middle of 3.
Great
Vote's gonna get
knockup.
him. Deathwalker's gonna get maniaK, and EmilZy's the only one left, and Kalas still chasing him down. The Terra's blessing, giving him the additional movement speed. May get EmilZy out of danger here. Indeed it will. So Rival claim the lives of 4, but Obey do put the pressure on to the Titan.
You know what I've noticed so far today, Aggro? Whoever gets the Fire Giant in this European semifinals just end up losing every team fight. It just doesn't matter.
I mean, Obey did get a lot out of that Fire Giant. They got a Gold Fury, they got a Portal Demon, they got tier 2 on right, they got right side Phoenix. But you're right, that last team fight, Obey had that Portal Demon and then never utilized it. Ataraxia was low at the beginning of that engagement, never went back and used the portal and just started up the siege, and Obey ended up paying for it. Now Rival has got their own opportunity for an FG, and with Wlfy here, the sun's dropped, no one from Obey Alliance, even in the area code. Rival gets an FG belt of their own.
Very clean opportunity for Team Rival to get a Fire Giant to respond in kind. This has been such a seesaw battle between these two teams. One side gets the solo lane Phoenix. Once it responds, the other side gets the solo lane Phoenix. One gets the fire, the other gets the fire. And this is only the first game here, Aggro, and both of these teams, look at it, 10-11, almost 66,000 gold for Obey Alliance, barely 67 for Team Rival.
This is gonna be a great set. I can feel it in my bones. We got a best of 5 coming your guys' way, and if you aren't expecting at least 4, I don't know, because that's at least what I'm expecting. This could be certainly be a long one. Our average game time has been pretty lengthy here at DreamHack Valencia, and it's been a lot of very close games.
And whether or not it's a 3-0 or not, if you look at the last set between Dignitas and Energy, that game 1 and 3 was just so close. All 4 of these European teams could have easily made the finals, and honestly, both of these semifinals should be considered a final.
In any other event, in any other year, except for Season 4, I think I could agree with you. But the level of play has just been so unbelievable that now quarterfinal matches look like finals matches from a couple of years ago. Either way, Obey Alliance does have to be on the back foot at least a little bit here, as Rival still has that FG buff for 2.5 minutes. They claimed their 3rd Gold Fury of the game earlier on, but they seem pretty focused on making sure this right-hand side isn't too vulnerable to the fire minions.
Still having Fire Giant buff around their waist for another 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Rival have a lot of sustained damage and a lot of survivability between 2 of these Guardians here. You're having Callus playing the Xing Chen that can either engage or disengage, and same thing goes for Deathwalker that can look for the same opportunity. And I'm expecting more of sieges here on the right-hand side with that Phoenix being at half health.
Already very low, as you mentioned, as the rest of Rival continues their push. They will have to deal with fire minions as they spawn, but instead of pushing down that right side Phoenix, they're instead going to shift towards the mid. The only tower still in blue that's left on the map, this tier 2 in the mid lane. Rival looking for another 1,500 gold.
And the whole idea here from Rival to shift their attention from the right to the mid is the fact that there's still fire minions that they have to deal with, so they pushed it out long enough to be able to keep their right side Phoenix safe as it's about to respawn.
iceicebaby is already ulted, comes dunking down, but only onto EmilZy. Instead, he's gonna retreat, but Swing is waiting for him with the cage. Tier 2 tower falls, but Kalas is cut off from the rest of his team. Phantom was used to make sure he could get around, but Deathwalker, he's left behind. EmilZy's gonna be able to pick him up. Prime surging forward with the chain lightning. He's gonna be able to clean up Kalas here. Twig able to find the last hit. Vote now left alone. Everyone from Rival is just running for their lives. Only the mid and jungle can say they got out alive, as all of Obey Alliance pushes up that mid lane.
Do they end is the question. Doesn't look like it. Obey are more interested in more gold and more Phoenixes potentially. And just like I mentioned before, it was Rival with the Fire Giant, but yet again, the team with Fire Giant does not win the team fight.
Mid Phoenix likely to fall here, as Obey do manage to finish that one off. Now they're focused onto the right side, already weakened Phoenix. No, it's onto the players of Rival as they actually chase them down into that Titan room. Now they're gonna shift their attention to the right side Phoenix. It will fall for the 2nd time this game, and Obey Alliance walk away, heads held high, having defended a Fire Giant siege very, very successfully.
There's still a second life for Rival, despite losing both of those Phoenixes in middle and right. The gold is even. Everything is aligned for Rival. All they have to do is just win one team fight. Same thing goes with Obey Alliance. If I'm both of these teams, I'm not even going to secure the Fire Giant, even if there's a DSI.
Cage comes down from Captaintwig as Obey does secure the Portal Demon, but iceicebaby's here, looking for the right ultimate target. maniaKK is his focus because he's the closest one, but Mantle of Discord shouts to that item because he just stunned away 3 people and got maniaKK out of danger.
A little mini Geb ultimate in that item allows the opportunity for maniaK to use that Eagles rally defensively before he gets bursted down. Rival now positioning themselves around this fire giant. It's going to respawn in less than 30 seconds here. I think they were also waiting for some members of Obey Alliance to unexpectedly go through that portal and get picked off.
What if Mantle of Discord's passive was literally a mini Geb ult and did percent HP for everyone you stunned?
They're like, oh, okay, I know what Geb does. Sure, let me go ahead and get this item. What if every item in Smite was a miniature ultimate of another god?
I'm looking at Ajax in the crowd right now, and I can only see the back of his head, but he looks pleased with our suggestions. Yeah? Good? All right. Look for that in 4:14. Obey and Team Rival very even right now. You're right, Tully. I mean, I don't know if I'd want Fire Giant if I'm either of these teams.
I don't know what it is about Fire Giant today specifically, but it's not been pretty for the team that obtains that.
You know what it is? It's opposite day. That's what it was.
Gotcha.
Everyone, I don't know.
So Energy really won 3-0 then.
No, it's only opposite day for Fire Giant.
Okay,
come on,
fair enough.
That'd be ridiculous. Fire Giant has respawned. Each team has gotten one for themselves, and each team has lost the team fight whenever they had the buff. Obey Alliance does have control of the pit for the moment, and they're more than happy to sit here with control because look at the fire waves pushing up mid and right.
As long as Rival can see Ataraxia trying to zone alongside EmilZy, there's no real threat of the Fire Giant even being secured. Captaintwig now trying to find somebody out of position, maybe even baiting out some of these escapes, so then he can lock them in after the fact.
Did lose a Stone of Gaia there, got put on cooldown by Deathwalker's knockup, and that's a big item right now for Captaintwig, and kind of surprised that only he and maniaKK have picked it up. Would have assumed that EmilZy would have wanted one as well. Look at Ataraxia, he's got a Shogun's Kasari.
Well, EmilZy doesn't really need Stone of Gaia considering the way the Terra passive works. You don't need that once you have a monolith up, but getting caught in the cage is going to be Deathwalker, not taking too much damage, however.
Not a lot of commit here from Obey, as I believe Terra's Blessing was used, by EmilZy, so that's 2 ultimates in exchange for 1 from iceicebaby, but he can't quite find the mark. Obey Alliance still with control, playing the very patient game here, knowing that their firemen are going to do the work for them, trying to put pressure onto Team Rival. Fire Giant was started and dropped to about half HP as Captaintwig blinks in. Lightning Storm comes down for PrettyPriMe, as do the Suns from Wlfy. Shell and Aegis used by the Obey mid laner. maniaKK in that backside, trying to force all of Rival back, in doing so successfully. Twig finds a multi-man slow. Rival's on the run. The wild HUD comes out from Ataraxia, but still not enough damage to find the kill. Wlfy is getting shredded right now by those Odysseus bow procs. He's able to jump away. All of Rival manages to escape, but this may have been enough space to find the Fire Giant.
It should be the case. The Titan did not take as much damage as expected, despite a full Fire minion wave under there. They're going to keep their Titan relatively healthy while the Mid Phoenix respawns barely. Oh no! Mid Phoenix fell to the minions.
I'm not saying that any warrior would have been able to save that Phoenix, but it was the solo later for Rival trying to defend that Fire wave, and he's playing Geb.
I thought for sure that Team Rival did a great job disengaging and a great job saving their respawn middle Phoenix. Unfortunately for Deathwalker, that was not the case. This time around, Obey Alliance with their second Fire Giant. They were not successful in terms of closing the game out in the first one. Can the second time be the lucky number?
Right side Phoenix has respawned for the second time this game, and Obey's looking to take it down for a third. Waiting on some ultimates. PrettyPriMe and Ataraxia will have theirs shortly, but Ataraxia will not have Aegis. PrettyPriMe will not have an Aegis of his own, so a couple key relics are going to be on cooldown. Meanwhile, Vote still has all of his available. Wlfy only has purification beads to his name, as there goes iceicebaby up into the sky as Wlfy drops the Suns. Ataraxia is the focus, and he's already very low, able to drop the Wild Hunt, but it's too late, he's already dead. maniaKK did find Wlfy. iceicebaby's gonna fall to Captaintwig, but Vote, Kalas, and Deathwalker still standing strong underneath this Phoenix. 4 members of Obey Alliance still healthy.
Against 3 members of Rival, trying to keep the right side Phoenix alive. Captaintwig diving the back line. maniaKK taking a lot of damage, more than it's probably worth there. Vote taking out the Portuguese powerhouse.
PrettyPriMe did manage to secure that right side Phoenix, but Rival still standing strong enough. 2 Guardians and a Soul walk into the right side Phoenix and push Obey right out of their base. Now, they did lose that Phoenix, as I mentioned, but still did enough to save the game. 36 minutes. And these two teams, Tully, less than 1,500 gold apart.
Doesn't even matter. These two Phoenixes are not really being fully optimized by Obey Alliance in terms of these fire minions hurting the Titan. Rival are doing a great job defending that structure, and it's not giving Obey an opportunity to enter that Titan throne room and end the first game of this best-of-5 set.
Got to give shout-outs to Vote in this one. He's played really well on this Soul. Top of the player damage charts, above a Zeus, which is not easy to do, even for Soul. And I love the build that he's gone for. Book of the Dead to finish off this build. He's got the Fatalis for the extra attack speed, movement speed, some kite ability in there. But then the Book of the Dead, that is 100 power and then a bunch of health built into the item, and then you get a health shield on top of that.
With the health shield and the lifesteal that you're also going to be obtaining from the Bancroft's talent, it's going to be difficult to lock down Vote, as well as these double guardians that we've been seeing. The Geb shields from Deathwalker has been a nice little additional touch to allow Wlfy and Vote to survive a lot of these late game objectives.
I mean, Obey has done a good job of killing Wlfy and killing iceicebaby, but it's pretty clear to me that Rival is most concerned with the life of their hunter, Vote. And that's why we've seen him survive pretty often in these late game team fights. And even like we saw right there, where it's just Soul and two Guardians, one of which is built kind of hybrid with the Void Stone out of Deathwalker. I mean, that's gonna be difficult to kill.
Absolutely, that extra penetration aura item will synergize very well with this Soul in the late game. I like what Deathwalker was doing there, charging his roll up, maybe trying to catch EmilZy off guard with a knockup before dropping the monolith to ensure he wouldn't get knocked up.
Well, only one Phoenix still stands defending Rival's base, and Obey's take a look at it. They're going for it, but they only have 15 seconds. There's a Blink Cataclysm from Deathwalker, and now Kalas with the spin to win. Into the backline goes iceicebaby, but he gets bursted by Ataraxia right off the bat. Deathwalker's next on the list. Double kill for Ataraxia. Vote drops the ultimate, but Ataraxia had the Aegis available. Vote's gonna probably fall here as Obey chases him down. 2 kills so far for Obey as they do find that final Phoenix. You make that 3 kills for Obey as they are gonna claim game 1 here up against Rival.
In an epic fashion, they still have to clean it out. Captaintwig jumps on in, no one else is there. EmilZy falls, so does PrettyPriMe, but the Titan finally falling. Obey Alliance gets game number 1.
1 down, 3 to go for Obey Alliance to repeat as the split champions here in Season 4. That game totally very back and forth though. It was Rival who had the advantage early on. They find that early right side Phoenix, but then Obey, that sneak fire giant was so important.
It allowed them to get back into the game slightly. All the objectives were controlled right off the bat from Team Rival. They got an early 6-minute Gold Fury or so. They got the second one to follow up, got the tier 1 mid, tier 1 solo, got so much momentum behind them off of all these little objectives. But after that one fire giant from Obey Alliance, it seemed that maybe it got into the heads out of Team Rival. It's like, hey, we were the ones that were supposed to control every objective, not you guys.
Well, they ended up winning the next fight when Obey still had that fire giant, so they made a good comeback there. And honestly, on that left side Phoenix defense, Rival had a great initiation. Deathwalker hits 3 or 4 people with the Blink Cataclysm, and iceicebaby does get into the back line. But for me, the big difference maker there, that instant cage from Captaintwig. I don't even know if he got anyone besides Deathwalker in there, but more importantly, kept the damage away from his backline, isolated iceicebaby, and allowed Ataraxia and PrettyPriMe to go to work on the jungler.
That's all he really needed to do as Captaintwig was playing the Odin. He was just penetrating that backline, getting the shield off, especially once some members from Rival used their escapes already. That made it very difficult mentally for iceicebaby to throw out his hammer all willy-nilly, and that's the reason why Obey Alliance were winning these late-game team fights.
Ataraxia had an absolutely phenomenal game. He cleans up the double kill at the end of that one. This Cernunnos is just such a comfort pick for him now. It didn't take very long for him to really add this god to near the top of his god pool.
I mean, we saw him in the early stages of this game having 100% kill participation. He was 3-1-3 when Obey Alliance had all of those 6 kills there. And this is something that I'm expecting to see more out of Ataraxia that's been making so much strides of improvement throughout his SPL career.
He really has. Nate has been around for a long time. Runner-up at Season 1 Worlds, then ends up as runner-up at Season 3 Worlds, but this Obey Alliance team looking pretty determined to make sure that they get the gold instead of the silver this year.
Absolutely, looking like a very dominant team. Very scary to go up against. They won the spring split. They looked so dominant in the online portion of the summer split, and now here they are in the semifinals, winning the first game.
I think the thing that stands out to me from that game, totally again, going back to it, Captaintwig's Odin, and we always talk, you know, Obey picks the Zeus and we say, haha, you know, Odin Zeus, it's been around since Alpha, it's real good. And while that's true, Obey didn't really utilize it that often that game. Twig is not the type of guy who's using these cages to find 3 people to set up for Prime. He's instead using it to block off the team fight. It's like an extended duration Ymir wall, basically, that takes up almost an entire lane, using it to really separate where Obey can be and where Rival's going to be.
And not only that, besides the team fight, you're looking to control some of these objectives. I'm pretty sure that Odin Ultimate was used in a nice position to prevent anyone from Rival to get in to potentially steal that objective away. And if we're going to talk about Odin and Zeus, we're going to talk about the way PrettyPriMe played the Zeus as well. His build between the Warlock Sash, going for that swift wing, making sure that he would compensate for the lack of mobility, delaying his boots for so long, worked out very well in that game, even though he was isolated and left alone that one time Obey Alliance tried to invade the blue buff.
PrettyPriMe, whenever we talk about his mid lane mages, it's always, you know, the Thoth, the Ra, the Morgan, the god that he can play flashy with, the Vulcan, of course. But honestly, I feel like his Zeus doesn't get enough credit because Zeus isn't that, you know, big one-shot flashy mage like Thoth is, but his Zeus is absolutely at the level of the Vulcan, the Thoth, the Morgan.
A lot of consistent damage when you think about Zeus, and as long as you're able to survive a large portion of the team fights, which is why he went for that Warlock Sash, then you're looking to just extend that player damage even further. PrettyPriMe playing lights out in game number 1.
We got to talk to you about something we got really cool coming up for you guys. Coca-Cola hooking us up once more. They did it for last year's Worlds. This time, tomorrow, July 15th, you can go to a live theater near you here in Europe in order to watch the Smite Summer Finals. I can tell you, I had a lot of friends who went to these theater showings for Worlds last year, totally, and they said it was an unbelievable environment to watch a great set.
Coke has always been great to us and great to the Smite fans as well, so don't miss your opportunity. Enjoy a Coke at a theater near you.
Wow, totally. That was really good.
Are
they cutting that for
I
a commercial
practiced that
for you?
one.
Wow, are you getting the free Coke? Because if you're getting free Coke, I want some.
My lawyer said I'm not allowed to answer that question.
That's fine. We'll talk about it after the cast or after the